All right, everybody, let's cut through the noise and get to the heart of what's happening in America's housing market, tying it all together with the bold moves by ICE recently and the rule of law and the economic shifts that are shaking things up for hardworking Americans. We're not here to speculate or tease some future breakdown or convince people that the sky is falling and the housing market is crashing. No, we're laying it all out, clear as day, with a red, white, and blue lens that respects your love for this country, our President Trump, and the America First agenda. This is about what's already gone down, what it means, and what we want to see moving forward to keep our nation strong, secure, and prosperous. And yeah, it may trigger some of you, but it's the truth.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. Today's inflation report coming in softer than expected, but prices for shelter, well, they saw another jump, climbing 4% over the last year, and that far outpaces the 2.8% rise for the core consumer price index.
The housing market, a stalemate broken by action, and for years, the housing market has been a tough battleground for American families. Skyrocketing home prices, stubborn mortgage rates hovering around 6.5 to 7% if you've got great credit, and a shortage of homes have locked out too many folks just like you from the American dream of home ownership. The National Association of Realtors reported that existing home sales tanked almost 6% from February to March, with a year over year drop of almost 2.5%, even during what's supposed to be the hot spring buying season. The Wall Street Journal called spring a dud, and Redfin echoed that the market's stuck in limbo. Why? Because high prices and economic uncertainty, fueled by years of globalist policies, inflation, and weak leadership, sprinkling a little bit of media hype and terrible headlines, have crushed buyer confidence. But here's where things get interesting.
CNBC recently interviewed the CEO of Zillow. And interestingly enough, he had to admit to a question that looms in the market. How does this illegal immigration affect the housing market? And once President Trump's mass deportations commence, is that going to offer some sort of solution to this housing crisis that directly affects American citizens? And isn't that what's important, since, I don't know, this is America? So, after dancing around the question and trying to half answer it, he had to admit the laws of supply and demand is what it is. And them bastards getting up out of here is going to free up the market. It's going to have a net positive effect on being able to buy a house for American citizens, by the way, because that's what's important. We live in America, and the problem has been these illegal aliens come here. They spend the first year or two in and out of hotels and shelters, but then they need housing. And I have seen in Illinois, for example, a family who just got here less than a year ago did a ribbon cutting ceremony in their brand new home in a suburb of Chicago. So they got housing, but American citizens who have been saving for years to buy a house have not been able to get into the housing market. It has been a problem. Government regulations, overspending of this outgoing administration, and just that have caused the prices to skyrocket. And you know what? I'm going to push back on this whole thing where, like, this CEO of Zillow said, "Oh, it's a inventory problem. We just need to build more homes." No. I'm pushing back on that. We have plenty of homes. We have 1.4 million available homes to purchase in this country. It's the cost. I drive around. I can tell you from personal experience, the cost of housing in Colorado, in the suburbs of Denver, is astronomical. It's hard to even barely live here. So when you have, people selling their home and, they're $800,000, $900,000. You can't get into that market. Even the homes that are 400,000, 500,000 are hard to get into because the interest rates are still above 7%. So the 50 basis point rate cuts a month and a half ago has done absolutely nothing to stimulate the housing market and American citizens purchasing homes. And a lot of the problem is that you've got too many people needing housing, and the prices are not moving down. They're not competitive. They're overvalued. These appraisers are overvaluing homes to the stratosphere. It's crazy. This housing market is nuts. But there will be some relief of this pressure when the playing field is more leveled, because there's only American citizens who are competing for homes. Okay? And yes, it will be advantageous to kind of drop your price because there's going to be such high demand. And when you can compete in this housing market, you can start to see the light at the end of this dark tunnel that we have been going down for the last 4 years. And people don't want to admit it, but when Donald Trump was in office, the interest rates were 2%. Okay, 2%, 2.5%. That's why the housing market was so damn hot. You could put your house on the market on Tuesday and you had to find a place by Wednesday because you got 4 or 5 all cash offers, no contingency. And it's like, damn, not anymore. Not anymore. This is not the Wild Wild West, but we're going to get it back, baby, because we're getting all the invaders up out of here, and it's going to open up housing for American citizens like it should. So thanks, Zillow CEO. You said the quiet part right on out loud. Peace.
Zillow's CEO dropped a truth bomb last November, admitting that mass deportations of illegal immigrants could free up homes and get this stuck market moving again. And now we're seeing the fruits of that vision, with ICE stepping up in a big way.
News exclusive. Our team goes on a ride along with ICE agents as they carry out one for their first job site visits at a new home development site near a fast-growing retirement community in Central Florida. And Dana Marie McNichol, she got to go along. She is live in Orlando this morning. Hi, Dana Marie. Good morning.
Hi, Dana. Good morning. Construction is booming in Florida, especially in and around the area of the Villages, as you mentioned, the world's largest growing retirement community. So we joined ICE as they went to this housing development unannounced after they opened an investigation.
We're talking to everybody out here. Are you a citizen of the U.S.?
Agents moved from house to house approaching workers. ICE describes the interaction as a consensual and optional conversation since they didn't have a warrant. Agents questioned their legal status, and those who couldn't provide valid immigration documentation were fingerprinted on site, part of a process to verify identities through a national immigration database. ICE says they opened an investigation after concerns from community members.
We've received a lot of tip line reporting on the, hiring practices of a lot of companies in the area, and so that's what we're doing today. We're obtaining a lot of license plates, company names, to be able to follow up on a lot of investigations are going to launch as a result of today's actions.
This marks the first worksite enforcement operation of its kind in the state of Florida. Officials made it clear it will not be the last. Most workers did comply with officers' requests, but over 30 ran away. According to HSI Tampa, agents talked to 361 construction workers yesterday, but arrested 33. 4 of them have a felony for coming back to the U.S. after being deported. And Dana, the operation, it didn't end there. Agents also visited local businesses to let them know that inspections are on the way.
Posts on X like the one from Chicago Ray highlight Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and ICE agents hitting construction sites in Orlando, Florida, arresting 33 illegals fingerprinting those without legal ID, and warning businesses about the consequences of hiring undocumented workers. This isn't just one raid. ICE is rolling out Operation Tidal Wave nationwide, deporting over 66,000 public safety threats in Trump's first 100 days, including 1,100 criminals in Florida alone in a single week. In Houston, they nabbed 422 illegals in a week, including a convicted murderer let in under Biden's open border policies. And this is the kind of law and order action we voted for, and it's sending shockwaves through industries like construction that have relied on cheap illegal labor for too long. These ICE raids and the construction industry are a double-edged sword. Let's talk about the cause and effect here, folks, because every action has a reaction. These ICE raids are a massive win for national security, the rule of law, and putting Americans first. Illegal immigration has strained our communities, driven up housing demand, and taken jobs from skilled American workers. By cracking down on illegal labor, ICE is sending a clear message. America is for Americans, and we're done letting globalists exploit our borders. But there's a ripple effect, especially in construction, and we need to face it head on. Construction sites across the country are losing dozens of workers, framers, plumbers, roofers, electricians, you name it, in a single raid. These are skilled trades, and when a crew gets gutted, projects grind to a halt. Delays mean higher costs, and higher costs mean pricier homes. And if you know anything about construction, swapping out a contractor or subcontractor mid-project can cause some serious problems in build quality, workmanship, warranty, you name it. The Berkshire Hathaway Home Services blog warns that Trump's immigration policies, including mass deportations, could spike construction costs by limiting labor availability, and combine that with proposed tariffs on imported materials, and builders are facing a squeeze. This could slow down the 1.1 million new homes plan for 2025, a near 14% increase from last year, and keep inventory tight in some markets. But hold the line, folks, because this isn't a reason to back off. It's a call to double down. We want to see American workers fill those gaps. And for too long, companies have hired illegals to undercut wages and keep profits fat. It's time to invest in training programs, apprenticeships, and incentives to get American carpenters, electricians, and plumbers back on the job, right? President Trump's deregulation push, which aims to cut red tape and make building easier, unless you live in California, and more specifically, Palisades, can help offset rising costs. We'd love to see tax cuts for companies that hire American workers and penalties for those caught skirting the law. This is about rebuilding an economy that rewards citizens, not lawbreakers. Housing market shifts and the opportunities are knocking in a few months.
Welcome back to Squawk on the Street. Today's inflation report coming in softer than expected, but prices for shelter, well, they saw another jump, climbing 4% over the last year, and that far outpaces the 2.8% rise for the core consumer price index. Joining us now to talk housing is Zillow Group CEO Jeremy Waxman. Jeremy, good to have you. And let's get right to that whole idea of renting versus buying, because when I look at the numbers right now in particular, and I'm taking a look here, I mean, back in 2020, it clearly made a lot of sense to buy. You were monthly putting away money that you otherwise would have spent on rent. But things have reversed completely, haven't they?
That's right. Thanks for having me. The housing market remains a bit of a challenge for buyers. And with home prices having run up so much since the pandemic, even with what rent prices we're seeing as an increase recently, less than home prices means it's better to rent than to buy in many markets. That said, Zillow Group's results in Q1 grew against that challenging market, up 13% in Q1, with our for-sale revenue up 8% and our rentals revenue up 33%. So even though it's a tough time to buy and it's getting more expensive to rent, you're seeing folks able to do it, and you're seeing them increasingly turn to services like ours to get it done.
Yeah, well, that obviously is good news for your shareholders potentially. But in terms of somebody looking for shelter right now and or wanting to buy, what do you believe is going to ultimately change this dynamic? Is it just all about rates?
Buyers hate uncertainty, right? You saw that when rates were volatile. You're seeing that now with economic uncertainty. But the challenge for buyers and the affordability challenge is really an availability challenge. In the for sale market, we are probably 4.5 million homes underbuilt. We've been chronically underbuilding since the global financial crisis. And so that has been this accumulated deficit we've been feeling. And now what exacerbates that problem is lack of existing homes coming online as new listings, as sellers feel stuck and in their mortgage rates.
Sellers, they may feel stuck, but there's an inventory of existing homes on the rise, at least, and there are more prevailing price cuts than bidding wars at this point. So while it might be tough to be a buyer, I guess, because of where mortgage rates are, it would seem as if things are loosening up. Is that not true?
Yes, we are seeing new listings increase. New listings up 19% in March from a year ago, but it's really important to put that in context. Think about what that listing level looks like from pre-pandemic levels, from the norms when we were seeing 5.5 to 6 million homes trade every year. We're still 30-40% off those levels. And so that lack of new listings versus historical averages is why you're seeing only 4 million and so homes trade on a seasonally adjusted basis. We've been at that 4 million level for quite a while now. That's really the have to move level. Those are the folks that can't put off the move, that have a new job, that have a change of location that they have to get it done. Most sellers are waiting as long as they can to trade out of that mortgage.
Jeremy, when you
Q3 of 2025. So now let's pivot to the housing market itself, because there's light at the end of the tunnel. Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, backed by the wisdom of Warren Buffett, is calling Q3 2025, late summer to early fall, the best time to buy a home this year. And why? Because the market's finally shifting in favor of buyers. Active home listings hit 959,000 in April, the highest since December 2019. Houses are sitting on the market longer and sellers are getting nervous. Nearly a quarter of Zillow listings slashed prices in March, a sign that the seller's market is cracking, and Berkshire predicts this trend will accelerate with sellers cutting prices to move inventory, giving buyers more negotiating power. Now, I'm going to put it to you guys like this. If I got a home to sell and I really want to sell it, my agent had better not list it at a price point that requires slashing the asking price. If you really want to sell your home, you should know the comp, you should know the market, you should know how to price it effectively to get it moved quickly, get a lot of showings, get a lot of offers, and close the deal. Now, this shift ties directly to the deportation angle. As Zillow's CEO noted, removing illegal immigrants could free up homes, especially in markets where demand from undocumented residents has driven up prices. With ICE's aggressive enforcement, we are already seeing anecdotal evidence of reduced competition in some areas. Fewer buyers mean less bidding wars, and that's a win for American families looking to plant roots. We want to see this trend continue. More deportations, more homes opening up, and more opportunities for citizens to buy at a fair price, right? Mortgage rates are another piece of the puzzle, though. They've been sticky, hovering around 6.5% or higher. But Berkshire's blog suggests that if buyers stay cautious through mid-2025, rates could dip slightly. Fannie Mae doesn't expect rates below 6.5% until 2027. But even a 0.5% drop could save buyers $150 a month, per the National Association of Realtors' Lawrence Yun, which could make or break an approval or pre-approval or getting you clear to close. We'd love to see President Trump's economic policies, tax cuts, deregulation, and energy independence tame inflation and push rates lower faster. A strong economy with rising incomes could also make homes more affordable, as Berkshire notes, if Trump's growth agenda delivers. Now, essentially what we want for the future is a list. I've got a few items here I want to share with you guys and point out where we go from here, or maybe ask the question. As MAGA conservatives, we're not just reacting to the news, we're shaping the future. And here's what we want to see in the housing market and beyond. Unrelenting ICE enforcement. Keep the raids coming. Deport every illegal immigrant, especially those taking jobs and homes from Americans. Right? Operation Tidal Wave is just the start. We want ICE funded, empowered, and unleashed to secure our borders and communities. American workers come first. Launch a national campaign to train and hire American construction workers. Offer tax breaks for companies that prioritize citizens and fund trade schools to rebuild our skilled workforce. Let's make America, made in America, mean built in America by Americans. We want deregulation and cost control. Push Trump's plan to slash building regulations and open federal lands for housing. This will boost supply and keep prices in check. Pair it with tariffs that protect American manufacturers, but ensure that they don't jack up material costs too much, and wait for an economic boom for affordability. Double down on tax cuts, energy independence, and pro-growth policies to drive incomes up and inflation down. Lower mortgage rates and higher wages will make homes affordable for more folks like us, like you, for everyone. We've got a buyer's market coming, as we've already discussed, for Q3 2025. And we want to encourage buyers to hold firm until late summer or fall when Berkshire predicts the best deals. With more homes on the market and sellers cutting prices, this is the moment to strike. And realtors should guide buyers to negotiate hard and avoid overpaying. At the same time, if the great deal and opportunity presents itself like it did for us, then I don't know. I would probably take it. I would jump on it as we did, but to each their own. Lastly, no more globalist nonsense, and reject any policies that prioritize foreigners over Americans. Like the proposal from Kamala Harris, I think, was to give illegals first-time home buyer, first-generation home buyer assistance. That was stupid. That was just dumb. That was nonsense. No more of that. No more sanctuary cities. No more catch and release. No more handouts that drive up housing demand and illegal immigration. America first means citizens get the first shot at the American dream. The bigger picture here, though, is that this isn't just about houses. It's about the soul of our nation. Every ICE raid, every deported illegal, every home that opens up for an American family is a step towards reclaiming our country. The housing market's been a mess because of weak borders, bloated regulations, and an economy that's been rigged against the working class. But with Trump back in the White House, we're seeing the tide turn. Berkshire's predictions, Zillow's insights, and ICE's actions all point to a market that's starting to work for Americans again. We've watched the housing gridlock choke up hope for too long. Now, with inventory rising, sellers cutting prices, and ICE clearing the way, we're on the cusp of a breakthrough. Remember, Q3 2025 could be a turning point, but only if we stay the course. Keep pushing for deportations, keep demanding American jobs, and keep fighting for a market that puts citizens first. And this is our country, our economy, and our future. Let's make it great again.